All right, and we are live, Lou. Have you been on a podcast, Lou?
I have, yes.
Really? Tell us about that. I guess he is a podcaster.
We did a couple of these I think about 6 months or a year ago, for talking about some of our recycling and services that we were doing. I think we might have even recorded one or two of them and put them on our website. I can't remember.
Okay, good. Well, we're going to talk about social media today, right? And surplus service. So it's within realm of what we're talking about. And I'd encourage those who are also participants to also ask questions along the way, and we can answer those questions towards the end. And we'll have Carly introduce herself in a little bit as well when she's available. So Lou, good to have you here. We've reformatted our program to be easier for employers, more interesting, more content. And we're excited about our partnership together because I've known you for actually quite a little bit, I would say. Probably at least like 5 years.
Yeah, we were
4
involved
years?
with we were involved with transportation logistics probably back in at least 2015. And then, of course, you're, I believe, indirectly or directly involved with Alignment Bay Area. So
That's
we worked
right.
together on a few different programs.
Yeah, and we actually worked out. Actually, let's do this. Let's have Carly introduce herself now that she's here, and we'll get into some of the backstory. Carly, share how you learned about Pod City and your interest in this particular podcast.
So I did an internship with Rising Sun Center in Emeryville, and they do energy audits on homes. I was a part of the Greenhouse Call program, and I did that in 2019. And unfortunately, in 2020, obviously, people were not allowing random people in their house to change out their light bulbs. So I wasn't able to participate this past summer. But yeah, I found out about that internship through PilotCity. My sister actually sent it to me on Instagram, and that's how I kind of got into it here.
Yeah, speaking of Instagram, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So great segue. And also it's great that you also had some experience through our program with a sustainability organization, right? Where you quite literally go into homes and convert them into energy efficient homes.
Yeah.
And it's also great that you are continuing with them as well. Did you work with them in 2019 as well?
That's when I started working with them. Yeah, that was 2019. And then I went on, did an extension of their program into the fall, and I worked until I had to go off to school. And I believe that in 2020, they actually they dropped boxes of light bulbs to people. So they kind of shifted to make it more COVID friendly, and so people could still switch over to more energy saving and water saving. They just had to install themselves because we couldn't go into people's houses.
Right. And did you share your interest in this particular project?
Carly, you said you were involved with, which one was it?
It was Rising Sun Center for Opportunity. I'm not sure if it's in Oakland or Emeryville, but it's right on the border.
Their property is literally on the border of Emeryville and Oakland. So like their parking lot is Emeryville and their building's Oakland.
Yeah. Yeah, if you've ever driven down 580 towards Emeryville, you've probably seen it. They have a Black Lives Matter sign right now, but before it just said Rising Sun.
It's off of 580 or the Maze.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty close to that, Lou. They're essentially an early workforce development organization. So they have these contracts with like PG&E and utilities, and they essentially fund energy efficiency programs. Okay. And they then hire young people to go into these homes and convert them into energy efficient homes. So
were you guys part of, like, for example, we have our green certification, and when we did our green certification, PG&E came out with a handful of people from PG&E, and my assumption was at least a couple of them might have been students, and they talked with us about, kind of the seals around the windows, efficiency for insulation, that kind of stuff within our commercial building.
I'm
Um,
not completely sure. Carly?
we didn't do commercial that I know of. That was one of the main things that,
Okay.
at least the program I worked for, did not do any commercial. I think that they were definitely looking to expand to everything, just to really help anyone they could in the Bay Area to really take down the energy usage. I know that they had a solar panel program too, where they would train people to learn how to install solar panels and things like that. And I believe that they also offered low cost installation for people. If I think it was more of like a qualifying thing, but the one that I did, you just signed up and you get, we would come to your house.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's actually how we got introduced to solar, because I tended to poo-poo solar, and I think when the folks came out here, we were trying to get a final certification, and one of the guys that we talked with used to be from, I think he was from Intel or something like that, and he was part of the audit for PG&E that came in and talked with us, and he was, complimenting us on the fact that we had had so many different initiatives in place around, waste reduction, zero waste. But he said, the only thing you guys haven't done is solar. And I said, yeah, I don't know if it really justifies the cost. And then I think right after that, because I think we did solar in either 2017 or 18, I can't remember. But I think right after that, they had this big tax incentive. So it essentially, paid for the solar cost of doing the install, because we got like a $100,000+ write-off for it. So it made it worthwhile for us to actually do it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we did, because I nothing against PG&E, but I would much rather not have to cough up $1,000. It probably might be locked.
Mhm.
Lou, we may
And
be
Derek.
losing you through the internet, the grapevines of the internet. But I think you're back now. Can you hear us okay?
And you not? Yeah, I can't hear you, but I can hear you fine. I thought you guys locked up
Okay.
though.
Okay, cool. You're back. So we'll let it.
And
We'll let it
Carly's been
cruise.
going in and out.
Yeah, we'll kind of play it slow here.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the context. And so Carly, feel free to ask any questions along the way. You can certainly if you do mute yourself, you can also unmute yourself, and then I'll know that you have a question. Then I can yield to you as well. That could be a good format. So Lou, I remembered where we actually worked on the logistics workforce incubator together. So we were involved with the East Bay Transportation Logistics Partnership, and we're looking to build workforce for the logistics, industry, which you're part of. And the logistics industry is very difficult to build workforce around. But it seems like nowadays, with so much e-commerce and B2C stuff going on, that's really kind of boomed up. So very interesting change of events in the last many years since we met each other.
Yeah, I just got off a call earlier this week with Barbara, who's the chamber president at the city of Oakland. I just got off with a call with her earlier this week, and one of the big topics that we were talking about was transportation logistics and how we can kind of reignite a lot of the initiative and potential around that, because that's a huge industry right now, especially with everybody to sales. There's a big need for those jobs, and a lot of those jobs are really good, high-paying jobs. A lot of them lead into supervisory roles. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. It's not the most sexy industry in the world, but it's still an industry that's definitely high-paying, good opportunity. So we're continuing. We're still very involved with it, and still making some traction and some inroads on a week or so. to some of our members to get some input from them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to know how you got to the point where you are today. Now, I have no idea what your background is. I haven't dug into your history since I met you, and so, take us back. How did you get to where you're at now? In the electronic waste industry. How did you, what was your background before? What was your journey to get to where you're at now?
Yeah, the last place I ever expected to be was in the e-waste industry. I actually, most of my experience and background was in the corporate world. So I started out, years ago. My first job out of college was with Xerox, which at that time Xerox was kind of the premier place to get sales and marketing training. And after Xerox, had spent some time with Philips Medical Systems, GE Medical Systems, over to the medical side of General Electric, but I ran their services business, so about $1 billion P&L. I had a few hundred employees, and I had all of the services business for everything west of Colorado. So we had 5 different, we used to call them local area districts, and then within each district, we had probably 80 to 120 people within each district, and they would go out and do various types of servicing of medical equipment, as well as selling service contracts. I mean, for GE,
Oh, he actually ran out of internet. Well, we know that happens sometimes.
lose you?
Lou, what do you got running in the background there?
Did I lose you?
Yeah, we
that?
lost you for a little bit. Do you have any
I
other?
don't know where you lost me.
Lost you at the Xerox story. A question for you though, because the internet is a little spotty. And do you have any particular softwares that you can maybe exit out of? Maybe that'll help a bit more. I guess Fremont needs some fiber optic broadband.
I'm sorry. Why is it saying this is saying our internet is unstable. I'm not sure what's going on.
I guess
Comcast may be doing something with the lines.
Oh, that could be possible.
Because normally we've got a high-speed internet and it's not an issue for us.
Ah, okay.
Derek,
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's been a little spotty.
Derek?
Yeah, we can hear
Can
you,
you
but
hear
it's been yeah, we can hear you, but it's a little spotty.
I'm gonna chat.
Sure.
Hold on one second. Hey, Anthony,
Sure.
are the guys having issues with the internet? Okay, this seems to keep going in and out. I don't know.
Yeah, I would take you on a journey on getting your speedtest.net. That usually helps. Is it on the a wrong Wi-Fi, or like a Wi-Fi signal that's less than the one you typically are on?
I just checked with our guys and nobody seems to be having internet issues. Are you sure it's not on your side of the fence?
Carly, do you have the same issue hearing Lou?
Yes, yeah, I do.
Okay. Yeah, it might be your
Because I'm
side,
having
Lou.
an issue hearing both of you guys as well.
Okay.
I'm having an issue hearing both of your sides as well. We can do a test if you want me to do that.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of fine right now. Yeah, do a speed test.
Okay.
We'll have a live show here on your speed test to see how good
There you go.
Fremont's internet is.
Why don't you remind me, what do I need to go into for the speed test?
go to speedtest.net on your browser.
Speedtest.net.
Usually, if you have fiber, it's actually a mirrored connection. So they say download and upload are essentially the same speed. But if it's not a fiber optic broadband network, downloads are always higher than the upload. So we'll
So
see
it's
what
running
you
it right
land on.
now. It's giving me a ping here of 55, and then
Okay.
it's saying 20, essentially 20.
For download?
Yeah, essentially
That's pretty
download is 20.
Yeah.
And the upload is, I think it's going to be about the same.
Oh, that's
upload,
good. You shouldn't.
It's a little bit less.
You shouldn't
it's maybe 50.
15? Yeah.
I don't know if it's on our side.
Huh, interesting.
That's why I say I don't know if it's on our side. So actually, both of them are coming up with the ping is 55, the download is essentially 18, and the upload is about 18.
Okay. Well, it's been fine since we started talking. So it might be just the reset of the Zoom that may have helped.
All right, let me go back. So back to, I guess, your question.
Back to Xerox.
Yeah. So I don't know where I got cut off, but as I said, started out there, ran about $1 billion P&L for GE on both the plastic side, and then moved over to the medical side of the business. And the one thing that kind of intrigued me with GE is that we used to sell a lot of our surplus equipment, especially our ultrasound equipment, to a guy down in Florida. And the guy used to make just a killing off of it, because most of it he would take and repair and refurbish, and then he would send it down south to South America. And I always kind of had that in the back of my head. And after being in the corporate world for many years, decided that it would probably be much easier, which was a stupid decision. But thought, God, how much harder can it be to run a small business of my own? I mean, I'm running $1 billion P&L. It's got to be pretty easy to run a little rinky-dink business of my own. And little that I know was about 100 times more challenging than running, a corporate business, because the difference when you're a small business owner is everything is your responsibility. So all that stuff
that's correct.
Pick up the phone and call. I didn't have that availability anymore. So that's how we got into this. And we looked at a bunch of businesses. My wife is it's actually a woman-owned business. And we looked at a bunch of different businesses. And this was one of the ones that intrigued us, because we thought there was a lot of upside opportunity, both on the e-waste side, expanding our footprint into medical lab test equipment, along with IT equipment, which is essentially what we've done with the business. So we've been able to, take it over, and going through a lot of ups and downs in the beginning, a lot of downs, been able to kind of grow it into a pretty significant business at this point. So we have customers. A lot of our customers are customers like the Department of Justice. A lot of the counties work with us, like County of Santa Clara. Some of the cities work with us, like Palo Alto City. Then we have a lot of IT companies that work with us. Large IT companies like Infinera. We have schools and colleges like San Jose State, Foothill College. So we work with a lot of varying types of organizations. Genentech is a lab that we work with. So a lot of those types of people.
Phenomenal. And I want one more request on the technical side. I hear my voice in the background as I'm talking. So it might be the volume on your computer. If you could turn it down maybe a notch, that way we can not reverberate. Not for you to hear though.
Better?
Testing. Perfect. So So you essentially took an entrepreneurial path. Did you ever have an entrepreneurial kind of did you ever want to start your own business, but when you're in the corporate side, and what pushed you over the cliff to say, hey, I'm just going to go and do it. I'm just going to go start an organization. And did you have any background, in doing business before you even started Surplus Service?
Yeah, it was just sheer stupidity. So, I mean, I'd like to
Foolishness.
say it was something, it was just sheer stupidity. So, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad had a injection molding business. They actually started out doing sewing machine cases. Um, and most of the people in our family, a lot of people in our family are entrepreneurs. I didn't think I would ever leave the corporate world. Had been there a long time, but got to a point where I really didn't enjoy, kind of the corporate ladder and all that stuff, and always had a desire to want to do something on my own. And quite honestly, it really was stupidity. I mean, I thought I had reached a point in my life where I didn't want to have to deal with the corporate rat race, and I didn't want to have to report to somebody, and frankly thought it would be relatively easy to run a business. I mean, the business that we got, we had again looked around for a while. It ended up that the guy that we bought the business from was a complete thief. And right after buying the business and spending a whole bunch of money, and quite frankly, buying a business that should have been a business that, we didn't have to do a lot to manage. 2 weeks after that, it looked like the guy who owned the business prior had basically taken one of the biggest customers that they had for like $750,000. That came back on us, and we ended up losing that customer, which meant we lost about 80% of our revenue. So we went from being a very significant business where you really didn't have to do much but walk in and collect a check, to basically being, having to face the fact that either, the business was going to go under, or I had to figure out a way to turn it around and grow it. And that took, probably 2 or 3 years, but eventually we got past that. And now that's not an issue for us. But again, it's, you don't, I mean, in my case, I bought something that we thought was very sustainable, that had significant revenue. And because the prior owner was not an ethical person, we had to make a decision about either just walking away from it or dealing with it. And we made the decision to, deal with it and grow it and do what we did. But it's definitely, I mean, even if it was more than sustainable, which what it was when we bought it, just I think the ignorance of not knowing how much is involved in running a small business. I mean, I have a huge sense now of what it's like to run a small business, what it's like to be an entrepreneur, what it's like to have to manage, a restaurant or a business, and have to have people that report to you, and just stuff that you in a large corporate environment you don't even think about, because it's so automatic. It just happens. But when it's yours and you're the person who's responsible for all of that, it's completely different. And nobody can. It's like kids. If you've never had kids, you have no idea what it's like to have kids. And until you have kids, then all of a sudden you realize the responsibility, the accountability, the love, all of that stuff. But you don't realize that if you don't have kids. So it's one of those things that until you do it and you're responsible and you're accountable, and that if there's a legal issue or a labor issue or a medical issue, or if the walls have to be painted, if the toilets have to be cleaned, all of that stuff ultimately falls to you. And in a corporate world, it doesn't. I mean, there's people all over the place who take care of that. So that it wasn't so much a burning desire. I mean, there was a burning desire to do it, but there was also just a lack of really understanding, what it entailed. I mean, to be in a corporate world and get paid and, have all your benefits and a company car, and, that was a pretty sweet deal. This is a much better deal, but it took me a while to get it there. So it wasn't easy.
So personal question, just for my own curiosity's sake. So would you say starting a business is as close as you can get to starting a family? I need some
Yes.
training early, so I'm trying to figure out if I'm doing the right thing here to advance myself.
Yeah. It can be very, it can be it's like anything, it's like marriage, it's like kids. It has its wonderful moments and it has its very painful, challenging, stressful moments. So I mean, in our case, again, we went through some very difficult times in the beginning. I mean, it was not easy. We went from having, revenue up here with lots of employees, and within a few weeks after buying the business, our revenue went down here, and we had to let a bunch of people go, and we were in the world. I had a lot of experience with, how to manage that kind of stuff, but nothing prepares you. It's like, this probably isn't the best example, but I remember my son, we were down in Florida on a house hunting trip, and my son had been sick, and I think I put him on my shoulders, and as I put him on my shoulders, his diaper overflowed, and I had stuff running down my shoulders and my shirt. Nothing prepares you for that as a parent, but that's part of being a parent. And if I had never had kids, it would have probably grossed me out, and it would have been a big deal, and I would have had a big issue and had to change my shirt and done all of this stuff. But after having kids, it wasn't a big deal. We finished our day, we went to the fair, we did everything we had to do, we changed his diaper, and you move on.
That's actually a perfect example, I think.
I mean, it's like the first time your kid throws up on you. It's, if you're a friend visiting and the kid throws up on you, it's a big deal. But when you're a parent, you don't even think about it. It's just part of life. It's just part of what you deal with.
So speaking of waste, let's talk about electronic waste in that industry. All right. So, you bought the business surplus service. And so what was some of the curiosities you have around the electronic waste industry prior? What opportunities did you see in it? What, emotional connection do you see in this space of, upcycling, recycling? I mean, we get into all the terminologies that much about. I'm probably triggering different words, but, what was your interest in this particular industry?
So as we started looking at, various businesses to pursue, and do our due diligence on to potentially acquire. I think a lot of it has to do. I mean, you're of a different age than me, but I have parents who grew up through the Depression, and they were always very frugal on stuff. I mean, as I said, my father was a small business owner. He had a business in partnership with his brothers, and both of them came through the Depression. And my mother was one of these people that she loved going to flea markets. She loved going to tag sales. She would buy toasters, and she would put them down in our basement. I grew up back east, so we had things like basements, and the basement was loaded with all this stuff that she would buy because she could buy it for $1, and someday somebody would need it. So I think that, I mean, one of our caveats for the business is we have a saying, I think it's on our website somewhere, about frugal Lou. And I'm Lou, and I'm pretty frugal. So I think that's part of what maybe drove the appreciation or the interest in a business like this, because a lot of the electronics that we get, and as I said, I saw this when I was with GE Medical Systems. I mean, a lot of the equipment that we would get and we would get rid of, to GE, it was a pimple on an elephant's ass. They didn't care about it. It didn't matter. It was meaningless to them. But the guy that we were selling it to down in Florida was making an ungodly amount of money with it, and he was turning it into a very lucrative business. And same thing with this. A lot of the equipment that we get is equipment that, if you're a Google or you're a Yahoo or you're The government, it really doesn't matter to you because you've got something in the budget and you're going to place it every 3 years. And it doesn't matter to you whether it's working or not working. You want to get a new piece of equipment, you want to get a new computer, you want to get a new pipette monitoring system, you want to get a new patient monitoring system, you want to get a new ultrasound machine, whatever it is. You're just looking at it from the perspective that you want to get it replaced. But that piece of equipment has significant secondary market opportunities from the perspective that there's a lot of people out there. You may not be one of them, I may not be one of them, and Carly may not be one of them, but there's a lot of people who care less if they have an Apple, what is it now, 12 or 11? I mean, they don't care. They're happy with an Apple 7 or an Apple 8 or an Apple 9. And same with a lot of the medical equipment that we get, a lot of the ultrasound equipment that we get, a lot of the test equipment that we get. It still does its job. It does its job well. Maybe it's not the latest, greatest. Maybe it doesn't have all of the bells and whistles, but there's a lot of people out there who are more than happy to get that secondary market equipment. And there's a lot of places around the world who aren't as spoiled as we are here in the States, where they are ecstatic to have a neonatal machine or a mammography machine. They've never seen a mammography machine. And if they can get a mammography machine that's 3 years old or 5 years old for a fraction of the cost of what it would be to buy a new piece of equipment, they're ecstatic with something like that. And that's where, for us, we're very passionate about the fact that we're giving a lot of this stuff that would end up in a landfill. And I don't need to go into the nitty gritty of it, but e-waste is the biggest contributor of hazardous materials in a landfill. It only represents about 3% of what goes into a landfill, but it represents about 85% of what the hazardous materials are that are in landfills. So when you start to dump things like TVs, computers, there's lead, cadmium, zinc, all sorts of stuff that leaches out into landfills and eventually gets into our water systems. So the more of that we can try to deter from going into landfills, going into waste dumps, the more of it that we can reuse, the better off we're going to be. And a lot of this stuff, like I said, again, I grew up in an environment where stuff was reused. I mean, my parents always reused stuff. I mean, we certainly weren't poor, but we weren't rich. But we, everything that they had, they would get the most use. They would always buy really good stuff, but they would always get the most use. So it was a fit for me, and it was a fit for the people who work for us, because I think, most of our team are very passionate about the fact that they really don't want to see this stuff go to waste. They don't want to see it end up in a landfill. And we're very proud of the fact that probably 85% of what comes in to our facility gets repaired, refurbished, and reused. We have the highest industry certifications you can get. We're ISO certified. We just renewed our ISO 14001 and 45001 certifications. We're R2, which is responsible recycling certified, which is the highest recycling certification you can get. We're certified Great Place to Work. We're certified B Corp. We're certified Green Business. We just won an award from the state of California, from the Governor Newsom's office, for being the most sustainable business in California. So, and then we do a huge amount of community outreach. So we just actually won a grant for $1 million from the state of California tied to reentry program that we have, a reentry apprenticeship program, where we're working with people who are incarcerated, informally incarcerated, and trying to get them into good, high-paying jobs. That's separate from our business. We don't make any money off of that, but it's something that we do because we think it's important from a community perspective to reach out and be a leader in the industry. Even though we're a small company, I would compare the amount of community outreach we do with any other company 10 times our size.
Yeah. Carly, do you have a question for Lou?
Yeah. So at the end of that, you mentioned the part where more outreach to community. And I was wondering, do you see a future of more reaching out to the community and maybe not, well, still working with businesses, but allowing just people in the surrounding community to come and have their e-waste?
I'm not sure if I got her whole, she was very soft. Say that again?
I was just wondering more about the community outreach that you do and how you help the community around you.
You want more information, you mean, or?
Yeah, besides the helping the people who have been formerly incarcerated, are there any other community outreach that you do to kind of promote the e-waste?
Yeah, the program that I work with Derek on, I'm on the executive board for something called Alignment Bay Area. One of the big initiatives around Alignment Bay Area is to try to get people from typically challenged communities into high-paying, good jobs. And it's very focused on education from kindergarten all the way through college to make sure that we're getting people the right skills so that when they get out into the business world, they have skills that businesses want to hire for. I sit on the board for the Boy Scouts of America. We've been very involved with their Eagle Scout program. We're on the board for East Bay Leadership Council. I'm very active on the board with Silicon Valley Leadership Group. I sit on about 4 or 5 committees. One is an environmental committee, one's a healthcare committee, another one's a environmental committee, and another one is a government relations committee. We've gone back to Washington, D.C. to meet with legislators and advocate for a number of initiatives within the state of California, initiatives like healthcare, education, all sorts of different programs. We were very involved with the electrification of Caltrans, going from San Jose, or I'm sorry, from
Let's see if Lou comes back.
Community outreach above and beyond. And I think the reason we do that is because as a business guy, when we were kind of in the doldrums of not knowing if we were going to be able to make it or not, we had an opportunity to work with the Small Business Development Center, and they did a business training class with us, and they helped connect us with the SBA, and we ended up buying the building that we're in now. I never thought in a million years we'd be able to buy the building. In fact, at the time, if I was the SBA, I would have never given myself a loan, because we were a joke to be able to get a loan for. But somebody believed in us, somebody trusted us, and they gave us an opportunity. And I think that's somewhat of a humbling experience. I, especially coming from the corporate world, I was very arrogant. Had kind of a different, not that I've changed that much, but my attitude was much more corporate, much more arrogant, not quite as sensitive to a lot of different things. And I think through that process, it was somewhat of a humbling process where, there were a lot of people who gave us an opportunity, a lot of people who outreached to us, and a lot of people who didn't have to do that, because frankly, as I said, I wouldn't have given myself a loan from the SBA. They didn't have to do that. They did. Obviously, we made good on it, but that's, I think, why now we do a lot of the community outreach we do, because we think it's important that everybody have an opportunity. You can fail, that's your choice, but I don't want anybody to fail because they didn't get an opportunity. If somebody's going to fail, at least fail because you chose to fail, not because somebody didn't give you an equal opportunity to succeed as others would have. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. I want to also introduce Allison. She just got off class, and she let us know that she was going to be available starting at 3:05. So Allison, introduce yourself, maybe a little bit about your project in the 2020 program and why you have interest in surplus service.
Yeah, hi, I'm Allison. I took part in the summer internship last year, and I worked on a project called Hand in Hand. with another friend called Annika, and we were working in East Palo Alto creating a website that compiles various free food services in the city so that people can find one that fits their time schedule or types of food that they want to get. And I'm quite interested in surplus service because I wanted to learn more about the e-waste industry and the recycling that goes on about there. And I also was interested in kind of your journey in growing your company and, you know, making it where it is today, as you were talking about. There was a lot of struggles for you guys and you had to get the loans. So I guess I also wanted to hear about how you guys made it into such a big thing today.
Thank you, Allison.
Yeah, we actually just did a program through Palo Alto schools, East Palo Alto schools. I forgot what it's called, Leadership Champion Program. It was through the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, and they bring a lot of athletic or either current or prior athletic people into a program I can't remember which high school it was. Actually, it might have been a middle school in East Palo Alto, and we set up a mentoring program for the students so that they can connect up with business leaders like myself, as well as a lot of the folks that they would see playing on the Sharks, the 49ers, the Giants, the A's, all of those teams. So it's a really good program, and it's specifically directed around trying to help schools in East Palo Alto, and I think it's a good program. I guess I'm, for your question, we do probably the best advice I can give is you can't. I mean, we shouldn't be where we are. We probably had a business a long time ago because nobody would have gone through some of the pain and suffering that we went through. And quite frankly, I don't think it's any different for us than it is for a lot of other small businesses. And if you look at what's happening right now, given the pandemic and given COVID, the amount of pain and suffering we're inflicting on small businesses, especially restaurants. I mean, you look at some of these restaurateurs that have built multi-million-dollar businesses, and then all of a sudden the government comes in and says, we're going to shut you down for 2 or 3 months, and we may open you up, and we're not sure. So I don't think it's necessarily any more unique for us than it is for other businesses. I think, for you as a student, we actually have, we just finished a group of, I think we had 12 students from San Jose State that were doing an internship project with us. So, and we do that almost every semester with them. I would say the biggest learning experience or advice I could give is you don't have to be smart to be successful. You really have to be persistent, and you have to be tenacious. That's what separates somebody from being successful or not being successful, because there's a lot of stupid people in this world that are very successful, and there's a lot of very smart people in this world who are not successful at all. And I would say the only difference between the smart people and the stupid people are that they were persistent and they were tenacious, and when they were faced with obstacles that were typically inconceivably difficult to overcome, they said, screw it, I'm just gonna figure out a way. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make it happen. So I don't know if that answers your question. I'm a lot older than you. It took me a lot of years to get to where I am to figure that out. I wish I had figured that out at your age. I tell my kids that because my kids are probably your age, but it really doesn't make a difference. You can go to Stanford, or you can go to, UC Merced, or not UC, Sonoma State or something like that. It doesn't matter. What matters is, I mean, it helps you a little bit in the beginning to get connected and to connect with the right people, but ultimately, what matters is the opportunities you're given and what you do with them and how aggressively you work and what you make out of them. That's what matters.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was super helpful. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go on to another Zoom call, but thank you so much for all that information. It's definitely
Thank you. Appreciate you getting on the call.
Nice insert, Allison. See you later. So Lou, give us a 101 on surplus service. What is surplus service? What do you do? What's your services? And just give us a baseline here.
We're essentially a one-stop solution for end-of-life equipment management and asset management. So all organizations, companies have surplus equipment, whether it be electronics, whether it be test equipment, whether it be medical equipment, whether it be computers, servers, phones, what have you. Everybody has that equipment. In the United States, it's essentially illegal to throw that out and put it into a landfill or put it into a garbage dump. So what we do is we manage all the end-of-life solutions for customers. So we do, in fact, we have, like right here behind me, I have this is a piece of equipment that's used for endoscopic medical testing. And they have customers throughout the country, and they want a resource where they can send that equipment to make sure that it gets properly recycled. So one of the partnerships that we have with this company, they're a medical company. We are basically their third-party company, where every time somebody is using, and these are one-time use pieces of equipment, every time they're used, they send them to us on a national basis, and we make sure that they get properly recycled. We'll also do things like if a customer has they're getting rid of all of their old equipment because they have funding for new equipment, we'll manage all of the take back of the old equipment and then manage all of the replacement of the new equipment. We'll do simple things like e-waste pickups. That's a small piece of what we do. We'll do wiping of drives. So any type of media device, whether it's a hard drive or a media type device, we can wipe it, we can shred it. We do that all to certificate of destruction specifications. We do a lot of logistics services for our clients. So we have hospitals that might want a piece of equipment in one location, move to another location. We can do the installation of the equipment. It can be very expensive equipment, like a CT room or an MR room that typically is a few $1 million setup. But we can do all the deinstallation of the equipment, and then we can move it from one location to another, or we can make sure that it's properly disposed of or recycled. We do pretty much anything related to end of life, end of use. I just got appointed by the state of California, actually by the Secretary of Environmental Protection, to a commission for the state of California around lithium-ion batteries. Typical California, we're very big on incentivizing the manufacturing of electronic vehicles, and California is a specialized center for a lot of that manufacturing. It happens with Tesla, but there's a whole bunch of other do with all the batteries. So I'm on and that's going to be responsible for making sure that we're properly disposing of batteries, and that's probably going to lead to a new business initiative to us. We take things like hazmat materials like batteries, light bulbs, all sorts of stuff. So really anything around green consulting, sustainability consulting, e-waste management, zero waste management, that's the type of stuff that we would get in and work with a customer for supporting their services, because we want to try to make them as environmentally friendly, as low a carbon footprint, as zero waste as possible. Part of it is e-waste, but e-waste is only a small piece of what we do. It's the piece that people typically think of, when they think of us, they think of us as a recycling company, but that's only a small, teeny piece of what we do. So much of what we do is just supporting other services and needs that customers have.
Yeah. Well, Carly has a question, but I want to ask a quick question. Give us just some spitfire, terminologies that you use to describe surplus service. There's recycling, there's there's upcycling, there's end of life. What are the variety of words? Just give us spitball on that.
Yeah, I mean, recycling, upcycling, asset management, e-waste management, electronic waste, um, logistics, manifesting of inventory, serializing of inventory, data wiping, data shredding. And the other stuff, I mean, that would,
Yeah.
if I knew, we actually have a whole list of, what do you call them? Not buzzwords, like SEO words that we use in a lot of our website and a lot of our terminology. I can't think of what they all are. We have a whole list of those that I could send to you if you were interested in.
Yeah, no sweat. Carly, you got a question?
Yeah. So e-waste is fairly new. It just, it hasn't been around as long as maybe, let's say, recycling. And I was wondering if you've seen any impact on, like, are there less things that should not be thrown away that are electronics now that your company has started to offer your service?
Yeah, actually, e-waste is, the industry to some degree is, I don't think the industry will ever go away, but, if I look back to, 2010 or something, when we started out, we would do e-waste events and we would get just piles and piles of, computers and servers and phones and TVs and monitors and, big things that people were getting rid of. And what you've seen happen over the years is, companies like Apple, Samsung, and all of the IT companies, they've really been focused on downsizing and shrinking a lot of the IT equipment and taking a lot of the precious metals and different types of plastics and glass out of it. So over time, e-waste is shrunken. So if I was to do a e-waste event today, I would get nowhere near the types of quantities of stuff that we got previously. And I think a lot of the equipment is tending to last longer. So I have an iPhone 7, I think, and it still works and it works fine. Apple would probably love it if I switched from the 7 to the 8 to the 9 to the 10, but a lot of this stuff is being made to some degree better, even though there's always a certain amount of obsolescence that's designed into the product, because that's ultimately how these guys make money. But at the same time, a lot of the equipment is shrinking down in size, and the quantities of stuff is shrinking. You don't see, it used to be there still are. There's database rooms, but a lot of stuff now is going up in the clouds, and so you don't need the same infrastructure from a database perspective. So you don't need big rooms with hundreds or thousands of servers like you used to have before. So that's changes that are happening from an industry perspective. A lot of stuff that would have been shipped overseas. China's changed a lot of their policies. India's changed a lot of their policies. So a lot of that stuff isn't being shipped in the places that it's being shipped to. So the industry is changing. I don't think it's ever going to go away. Certainly now you even have a lot more people who are working out of their homes versus working out of offices. But as I said, it's changing. As a, for us, it's like anything, any business. If you become stale, if you aren't willing to change, if you aren't open to do things different, you're going to die the death of the dinosaur. So you have to understand what's going on in the industry, and you have to understand that if people aren't working in offices, then they're working from home, and it doesn't matter whether they're working from offices or home, they're still working on some sort of device equipment, and we have to figure out how to manage that and get that back and properly disposition it so it doesn't end up in some landfill somewhere.
So Lou, we're asking students through your program in our program. To research, design, and produce social media content and templates to share the social, environmental, and economic impact surplus service is contributing to the electronic waste industry. So essentially, the point is you need help with social media, or not necessarily help, but there could be better people, to managing that and to build, actually characterize all the wonderful things that you've already just shared in this entire podcast, right? Like you are getting, grants to do reentry programs as you already were doing, right? You're a certified B corporation, you're a certified green business. You're being appointed to these different positions on state levels and local levels. Obviously doing something that people are inspired by, right? And things that people obviously find of value and of leadership. And so, there's a lack of, it seems, the promotion of some of these things, right? You're essentially doing it for the good of heart, and while also being an industry that's of good of heart, right? To be able to kind of recycle, upcycle, take this e-waste, do this asset management, do this end of life cycle to recycle. You're doing all these, you're in the business of doing good, and you're doing good, right? And so tell us about that challenge and that you have around just being able to promote this, and specifically perhaps even your social media status at the moment.
So we're trying to hire, if you know of anybody through this podcast who's interested, we're trying to hire a marketing SEO digital marketing person. So we have that open position right now, and we'd love to get that filled sooner than later. We don't do a lot of outbound marketing, and we don't do a lot of outbound business development. Most of the people who know of us and work with us, it's through a lot of the various work that we do, and they end up getting connected with us that way. So we probably social marketing, we don't do as much SEO, we don't do as much just general marketing or advertising as we should. And we think it's a huge opportunity to get the message out there. Generally, when we meet with a customer, the likelihood is they're going to be a customer of ours forever. I mean, we typically get customers and we don't lose them. We do a really good job taking care of customers. I mean, customers for us are, it's our life's blood. So I come from, the like I said, the Xerox world, the GE world, and everything was about the customer. So we try to be very focused from a customer perspective. But I think, from a digital marketing perspective, from an SEO perspective, we have a huge void. I mean, we don't do a very good job getting our messaging out. We don't really do a good job letting people know what we do. And that's where I think it's an opportunity to partner with you, Derek, and your group. We're hoping that some of the students, will be able to provide us, fill in some of the gaps that we're not doing right now. And there are a lot of gaps for them to take advantage of. So that's why we're very excited about the program going forward. As I said, it's the hardest thing is you would think you would think somebody giving you their junk, somebody giving you their surplus electronics, all the stuff they don't want, you would think that's very easy. And it should be not difficult for a corporation or a city or a county or some entity to do, but it's a big deal. I mean, it's a very long sales cycle. You have to talk to a lot of people. You're dealing with, EH&S, environmental health and human services. You're dealing with risk management. You're dealing with facility management. You're dealing with IT managers. So there's a whole bunch of people that get involved with these decisions. And I get that's good. But at the same time, it makes it a fairly long, fairly sophisticated sales cycle. Like I said, I came from pretty complex industries. I mean, I used to sell plastic pellets, which was nothing. I mean, we sold that by the train loads to medical equipment that would sell for a few $1 million a piece. And you would think that this business would be relatively simple, but it's not, because people are very concerned about their sustainability. They're very concerned about their carbon footprint. They're very concerned about their image. they're very concerned about who they're partnering with and what they're doing. And one of the areas I think we have from a growth perspective is on the social media side and the marketing side. So I think that's why we're excited in working with you, because we see that as a huge opportunity to help fill some of that gap.
Yeah, and the difference here is that you already have a lot of content, right? And maybe you don't have photos or like photos with your customers, or you just holding grant awards or whatever, right? But you just have content in the sense of you just have things that you've been recognized for, right? That you've been appointed by, and things that you've earned, and applied for and got, and all these. You have a bucket of achievements, as an organization that's ready to be promoted, right? So that the organizations that you're looking to work with can start to see some of those and be like, hey, this organization here, right, is who we'd like to work with, to take our waste.
When I say it's a gap for us, I'll give you an example. I mean, we have the highest recognition you can get for ISO certification. We're ISO, as I said earlier, 14,001, 45,001. We're an R2 company, and we've been that now for a period of time. We just went through our renewal. We're one of the very few companies. We did our certification within a few months, which is unheard of. Normally it takes a company to get certification 6 months to a year. And then we came through with 0 nonconformities. They have something called major and minor nonconformities. We had 0 major nonconformities, and we had 0 minor nonconformities. Out of 100 companies that apply for those certifications, you might get 3 that get no nonconformities. So it's unheard of for something like that. We didn't even have those certifications on our website. It was an entire year. And we I think just the other day, we put those certifications on our website. So we spent, months going through, putting together the audit. We had an auditor here. He was here for a week, all of that stuff, all of that work, and we didn't even promote it. So, I mean, to your point earlier, yeah, we do a ton of things. Like I mentioned to you, we have this apprenticeship program. It's called REAL. It's tied to re-entry, people making sure they get into really good jobs. That's not on our website, and we don't even talk about it. So there's a ton of stuff that we do that we don't promote because we don't have a marketing person, or we don't, work with a group or a team like you guys. And it's, I mean, we do when we're talking. I mean, I talk about it, but unfortunately, if you were to go into our, our Facebook, our Twitter, our, Pinterest, all that stuff, I don't think it's been updated on a regular basis. And I'm not trying to say all the bad things. It's just, it's what it is. It's an opportunity for improvement.
Yeah. Well, number one, I feel like it's fascinating because I'm kind of on the same boat. Like I love just doing good work, right? That's what it comes down to. Just, you're doing good work over there, right? You're, being a better, business owner. You're being a better, business owner that has employees. You're being a better business owner with employees, with an organization that represents an industry. You're an organization in an industry that's doing good work in the industry to make our world a better place. And then at the same time, you're keeping up with all the different variety of certifications at the same time. And so not only are you busy, but you are actually just looking to do good work. You just haven't had the opportunity and chance and the know-how and the momentum and the talent, to understand how to get it out, to people now. And maybe now's the opportunity. Yeah. And maybe that's why we're partnering. So, and that's exciting.
Well, I mean, as I said, we're excited to be working with you because we see it as a big opportunity. And, we know what we do, and what we do very, very well. What we don't do well necessarily is promote it probably as well as aggressively as we should. But that's okay, because once people do connect with us, I think they get a sense of who we are and what we do, and they tend to feel that there's a passion there. I mean, I don't, if you look at our roster of clients, the people who work with us, when we're not a big company, but we have a lot of big name companies, a lot of big name government entities, a lot of big name people who trust us and are willing to work with us. So I don't think that's because we're a bunch of schmucks. I think it's because they feel really good about what we do, and they trust what we do, and they believe that what we do is, you know, philosophically ties in, or synergistically ties in with what they do and what's important to them. I mean, when companies like Genentech partner with us, the reason they partner with us is because philosophically, a lot of what we're doing from a zero waste perspective, from a reuse perspective, I mean, we're going to be picking up probably 50 pallets of stuff that they're donating, things like office supplies and all sorts of stuff. That's not part of the business. I don't make any money off of that. It's a lot of work for me, but that stuff's going to come back to us. We're going to separate it, sort it, we're going to repalletize it, and then we're going to donate that to schools in San Jose who can't afford a lot of, you know, pads and pencils and paper and all of that stuff. But I mean, to me, that's the one advantage you have of owning your own business is you can do whatever the hell you want to do, and nobody can tell you not to do it or to do it. And you know, for us, this is what we like to do. This is what's important to us. This is what this is what we value. I mean, if we were just in a business making a lot of money, that's good. But what's even better is when you're in a business, you know, making money and doing good and giving people opportunity.
Phenomenal. One last question that I have, and maybe Carly has an additional if you'd like. What do students have to work with here, and what would you like to prioritize, right? So, you know, our program partners with employers, we scope out projects of value. You found social media as a value, and then we have students challenged to take on that project and develop the solutions for you, right? So what's helpful for them is to know what priorities you see for them, and then what particular content do you have for them to work with, right? So would you want to, I know you have a lot of stuff going on, and it's hard to, you know, give us a list in priority order, but top of mind, right? When you think about all the achievements and accolades and awesome work that you guys are doing that you just don't promote that much, what are some of the priority ones that come up to mind that should be promoted? And then what kind of content do you have on? Do you have any pictures? You got any videos? You got any, you know, things that maybe need photos, need videos, need graphics?
Yeah, we have tons of there's tons of things that can be highlighted and written about and put into our social media. Probably the first thing would be to update a lot of our social media. So, you know, updating our Facebook, updating our LinkedIn, updating a lot of that stuff that we haven't gotten around to update. And then we have a lot of verbiage that can go into that. We have a lot of pictures that can go into that. We can probably, I wouldn't say we have videos. We have a few videos on our website, but we can definitely do things like these podcasts or programs like this to add that type of content onto our various social media. I don't know if your people have the skills. Right now we have 2 websites that are, they're decent websites. They're not great websites. We have other websites that we're probably about 80% of the way complete with. So we have our Plus Service website that we're going to be replacing with a new website. That's probably about 80% of the way there. Perhaps you guys that could help with that to bring excess bid. That's where we sell a lot of our equipment. It's our own personal e-commerce site. That site is being all completely redone. So there's a lot of stuff. I'd say it's probably about 70-80% of the way there. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done there. And then we have a whole, I mean, it's fairly technical, but the way we sell, like we list stuff through a third-party group that we use overseas. We put it onto various platforms, and there's what we call an omni-channel, which ties in with what we do and puts it onto multiple sites. And then when it gets sold, it removes it from those sites. But getting that whole process to be more streamlined and making sure that we're listing stuff on places like Shopify and other locations, that's also a big opportunity for us. So I mean, the projects are endless. We can definitely prioritize, but I don't think I know nobody will get bored with nothing to do. I mean, I think you're going to talk to Anthony later. Anthony came to us from Google. He ran like 7 warehouses for Google. And oh, you must have heard your name. You just walked in. And this is 10 times more involved than what he was doing over there. So it's you know, whenever you're running your own business, it's very involved. What was your mail? Gave me mail? No. Sorry. I've got a question.
This is the beauty of a podcast. We get to see all the nuances of
The
people's
joy
daily
of small
lives.
business. It's always something exciting.
Well, thank you so much for all this information. This podcast is a required watch for the students who are in your program. So they're going to watch everything here, right? And they're going to watch what Anthony's going to be producing. And they're going to read that you want them to create social media content and templates. And then they're going to develop solutions for that. So this is going to be a required watch for students in your program, this podcast that we're recording. So they'll use this as context essentially to make their projects, right? And their social media content and templates and so forth for Surplus Service. So thank you for your time.
It's good sleepy time reading.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot there with Surplus Service where people won't get too bored. So Carly, do you have any last questions for Lou over here?
I don't, but thank you so much for telling me about all that you do. I actually had never heard of it before, and I've lived in the area my whole life, but I'm sure there's a lot of things I haven't heard of, but I really like what you guys do, and I really like your mission. And I feel very inspired by what you've done.
Great. Well, excited to hear that. Where do you live, Carly?
I live in San Leandro. I'm currently not there, but I usually am there.
Okay. Well, if you ever get a chance, we'd love to have you come by. You've been to our facility, right?
I have.
Derek?
I have. Yeah, Fremont.
So since you were here, we've now moved over to the other side of the building. So I think when you were here, we had half of the building and we were probably leasing the other half, but now we're fully expanded to the other side of the building as well.
Expanding, huh? That's very exciting. And we're excited about having you. And by the way, we're getting through the grapevine that, you know, students are interested in your project and Surplus Service. We're finding that students gravitate towards projects that have a practical understanding that they can understand, right? You guys do electronic waste, you know, you're in the electronic waste industry. They get that. And they also like the aspect of social environmental impact that you're making as well. So we plan to have a robust program, and we plan to be able to contribute in our own way with our network of students. So thank you for your time, and we shall talk to you very soon. And I'll talk to Anthony in just a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. And as I said, Derek, we, as I said before, we've had, you know, every semester we have a group of students from San Jose State. We just finished with 12 of them. Santa Clara University, and then we've done a number of high school projects as well. So this is something we're comfortable with and we're used to. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, we are not surprised from what you said. I have this fits right well with your wheelhouse there. So really appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna talk to Anthony. Carly, thanks for coming as a co-host and alumni. And talk to you all very soon. Bye.
Thank you.